There you go. Now you should be able to hear
One
me.
minute.
Everyone got me? How about now? Now you got me. Yeah, there you go, Big D. All right, this is our simulcast, which will air on the Raiders YouTube channel later today. And you can hear now. I'm going to be looking at the television camera as we make this a TV show. Ready to go, everyone. Let's have fun. Okay. We continue to tell you everything about the Raiders now. They play hard. We know that. You know that. There's no quitting this team.
I mean, he's just been showing up each and every week. And sometimes it's not the most glamorous stats, but it's all the little things he's doing well.
I love it when guys take full advantage of their opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Hunt is doing just that.
This guy, when you watch him play, he's a football player. Where they're able to put him on the field, it just makes him limitless.
Welcome to Raiders Rundown, Holiday Edition. I'm JT. Congratulations to the entire Raider organization as they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. The 10-game losing streak has come to an end, and now the Raiders get set to play in New Orleans this upcoming Sunday here. And for a lot of fans, that's a win. And we celebrate wins around here, and the Raiders won a game against a team I think they should have beat. We talked about it all last week, and we'll preview New Orleans a little bit later on in the show. But when a team wins a game, if you watched any of the Raiders' social media immediately following the game, from Brock Bowers to the owner Mark Davis to the head coach Antonio Pierce, Amir Abdullah, everybody in that locker room had a big smile because no one wants to lose. Just win, baby, commitment to excellence, the will to win. And that's what happens when you're a professional sports team. No matter what the fans want, you're going to go out and win. And these fans wanted to win. I was at the game yesterday in my seats and up in the booth, and there was a celebration for Raider fans who don't want to lose. They want to win. Clearly ramifications with the draft pick. We're aware of that, and we'll march on and deal with that in March and April. But as of now, the Raiders have a little bit of momentum. They played a very solid football game, which is really what we've been asking for over the last couple of months. They won the turnover battle. They had Jacksonville turn it over twice. They didn't turn it over. They played a clean game. Brock Bowers was fantastic, but I think if you're watching on the YouTube channel, if you're seeing some of the video on radio, I'll tell you what we're seeing. We're just seeing an offensive line pushing, Isaiah Palamal knocking balls out, and we're seeing a pass rush and a team that wanted to win this game. And the way that they swarmed to the football, played the opponent physical, and wanted to win that game in the fourth quarter, that's what they've been doing all year. The problem is they lost 10 games in a row after being 2-2. Every game they showed tremendous effort. Every game they wanted to win. Most of the games, the majority of the 10 losses in a row, they were in them. They either had the lead early or they came back in the fourth quarter on the backside there, but the results are all that matters. No one is happy with the results of this season, with the record of the team, but everybody in the organization, I've been here all day, is pretty happy about getting a win because you're a professional business. You're a football team. You got football staff. You have business staff, and they want to win. And they want to come into the holidays, and the Raiders got an early Christmas present with the win. I want to just share this story quickly before we get to Lincoln Kennedy. Yesterday, as I got there early and I parked, I kind of do a circle around Allegiant Stadium. I like to tailgate a bit. And I met a young boy named Romeo, who was 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, and he had a sign that said it's his first game and he wanted to win. So his dad knew me, and I talked to him and took a photo with him and tweeted it out on X at JTthe Brick. And I said when I walked into the building, that's what it's about. It's about a kid attending his first game. It's about, unfortunately, a fan maybe attending their last game. And they want to win. And that's what this is all about. So yesterday, it was a festive atmosphere, great entertainment as always. The team showed up. We had the Brock Bowers story as he was going to have this unbelievable game where he had all those targets and played well and is now very close to breaking the all-time yardage record for a rookie tight end, the reception record, and that was good. That's what we wanted to see. A couple of really solid individual performances. But as the owner, Mark Davis, talked to me before on the sidelines before the game, it's about winning games. Records are important. Records come and go. But winning games is what matters, and the Raiders put up a fight, and they won that game. And Jacksonville put up a fight, too. They got a couple of good players on that team. They're not going to need a quarterback, I don't think, in the draft. You never know with Trevor Lawrence. Never know what's going to happen. But for the Raiders yesterday, you could just see after the game how happy Aiden O'Connell was to get a victory, because he gets evaluated by wins and losses. To see the play of the defense, Trayvon Merrick, and how excited he was in the locker room. I mean, no one could slow down Divine Diablo. He was happy about the win. And how about Jackson Powers-Johnson and DJ Glaze and that young offensive lineman that don't want to lose 13 or 12 in a row. They were done at 10. They were done at 10, and they wanted to win the game. So there's a lot of chatter out there, and from time to time, things don't work out the way you want. But the draft, we start getting the draft coverage going with the combine. We do that in the offseason after the Super Bowl. And the teams that advance in the playoffs, they're going to get a lot of coverage. But the Raiders are going to get a high draft pick no matter what. They're going to get a high draft pick in every round. They'll have the ability to trade up, trade back, and spend a lot of money and improve the football team in the offseason. But a win was really a priority yesterday, and the Raiders took advantage of the opportunity they had against the Jaguars. We bring in the great Lincoln Kennedy, who was on the call with Jason Horowitz. And Link, we talked before and during games and after games, and it was an interesting environment. It was a holiday environment for the Raiders. One team was going to win that game, and the Raiders acted like they wanted it more in the fourth quarter.
Wouldn't it be something if it went down in the tie? That would definitely be funny. But you know what? Here's the thing. It was good for the Raiders to get a win. Look, I'm like you in many respects. I've been on the fence all season about how do we pursue. And as a former player, I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even fathom if I heard from a coaching staff or anybody, administrators, that we're trying to lose this game, or we're trying to tank, this season for a better draft choice. It doesn't go down like that. So with that being said, I'm glad the Raiders were able to end the losing streak. More importantly, I was glad they were able to get a win. I think, not only players, but this entire team, the coaching staff and everyone in general deserve this. This has been a very long, hard year. And of course, the expectations coming in. No one ever starts a season, JT, and says, well, we want to lose, more games than we win. Especially in football, every fan base I've ever known, when the draft comes out, when the season comes out, they all have the aspirations of chasing that championship. We have, whether you look at it as an advantage or a disadvantage, we have to look up at the Kansas City Chiefs hailing up those championship trophies year after year. And that's unfortunate for us because they're in our division. We can't do anything about it other than, try. So I was glad to see the Raiders get a win.
Same here, Lincoln. I want to start with Bowers, the 11 receptions, 99 yards. What did you see this time? Because you've talked with us about the bracket coverage and the best corners now sliding over. He lines up wide in the slot, lines up as a traditional tight end. And it's important that he got his touches and targets in the game. What was different about this performance for Brock?
Well, I think it was a conscious effort to get him the football. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't been that way before, but the thing is that Aiden O'Connell in this past game read the coverages. And when he saw that he had one-on-one coverage or he was going to have man coverage, they knew they had a two-route combination between a receiver or someone else to try to make some sort of distraction on the defender, Brock Bowers. That gave him a step, and you don't need more. The guy has such an unbelievable catch radius. I am very impressed with this young man. He's not like a tight end. He's more like a receiver. And then, those are unicorns. Those are rarities, if you know what I mean, JT. Mm-hmm. You don't have that all the time. But I like the fact that Scott Turner and this offensive staff have made an effort to find a way to get Brock Bowers the football. And the thing is that Aiden O'Connell is being smart. There's been times where he forced it. We've seen that in the past. We've seen it most notably the last game when there was an interception on an overthrow. But this time it was a good job by them to get him the football and to make him relevant as he really is every week.
You know what I think, Lincoln, after watching him play every game, when he gets to this yardage record, it's not just the catch radius. It's how he gets the extra yard and a half, 2 yards, either going out of bounds or not going out of bounds. That's what adds up when you get over 1,000 yards, and he's going to break Mike Ditka's record. It's not he's getting the ball and going down or getting the ball and immediately going out of bounds. He's getting that extra 2 yards. I love when a player falls forward. Running backs are supposed to do that when they get clipped and fall forward, get an extra yard or two. but also tight ends and wide receivers can do that, and some are better than others. I think that's what makes Brock Bowers so special.
I think it's a combination of that and a little bit more. Brock Bowers has that uncanny attitude about getting free and knowing how to get open. And to me, that's big. There are very few receivers that know how to do that. They know how to find holes and zones. They know how to escape from man. And the great thing about Brock Bowers, in my opinion, is the fact that you're able to separate him. Can't cover him with a linebacker. If you cover him with a safety, the chances are they're probably going to be shorter, so you can throw the 50-50 ball up higher or the back shoulder throw, or more importantly, he finds a way to pull away when he has a little bit of an inch of room, and then the quarterbacks are capable of throwing him open. That comes from an accurate quarterback. So I've seen a lot of things that I really like from this young man. I think he has a very promising career ahead of him.
Lincoln Kennedy's our guest. Let's get to Aiden O'Connell and his performance. Didn't have a touchdown in the game, but he didn't turn it over. And how about his mobility outside the pocket? Antonio Pierce had a lot of fun with that after the game at the stadium and talking about it earlier today. Just keep in the pocket, move, and make a play. You have to do that, Lincoln, in the NFL. You're not going to be a starter in the NFL if you're just a statue back there. And he's got a big arm, but, man, I love this footwork in this game. And as we're showing him escaping a big play here that looked like a sack, he was able to find Abdullah on one of the biggest plays of the game. I liked his mobility more than I've ever seen it in that game.
I honestly think that play right there is a game winner for
them.
I don't think the Raiders find a way to win this game if they don't find a way to make that play and then continue that drive and get points out of that drive. So big play out of him. And look, I do believe in today's game, quarterbacks have to be somewhat mobile. I'm not saying they have to be Michael Vick or anything like that. I'm saying they have to be mobile because there are going to be times you're going to have to extend the play with your legs, and that's rightfully so. That was a very big play. I'm not necessarily saying Aiden O'Connell was mobile, but he has a way of being able to move around, so good for him.
Yeah, you don't have to be Lamar Jackson, as you mentioned Michael Vick, but when you play in a division that has Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Bo Nix, we're seeing Bo Nix do that. You got to show some mobility. Yeah. You got to extend the pocket, and that was really important. But, Lincoln, you preached this. It's about ball protection, and he's been sacked a bunch, and there's been a lot of pressures on him, and he was smart enough to make good decisions protecting the football. I don't think the Raiders win this game if they turn it over once, and they didn't have a turnover in the game. They turned it over twice. So that was important to him. Even though he didn't throw a touchdown there, he didn't turn it over. I think that's a building block for this offensive line. Scott and Norv Turner and everybody involved, they played a clean football game.
I agree with you. I think they played, in my opinion, somewhat of a clean football game, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I will say this, just a little added caveat. I am not happy with the way the refs are not protecting Aiden O'Connell. Mm-hmm. Aiden O'Connell has taken many shots after the ball is gone. And we've seen time and time again, watching a lot of football, how more refs overprotect other quarterbacks. Every time they get breathed on, there's a flag. And Aiden was pushed down. He was hit. He was harassed on the top. There's a strike zone on the quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. It's from the shoulder pads down to the waist. Anything low is a penalty. Anything high is a penalty. And there were times Aiden took pushes down from the back, took pushes from other guys, and it wasn't called. With that being said, I'm not happy with the way that's been officiated, especially with him. He's a young quarterback, but yes, give him the respect that he's due. He's a quarterback in the league. You protect other ones, so you should do that. I made my peace with that one.
Yeah, I'm happy you're bringing that up. No, I'm happy you're bringing that up. That's really a big, important part of what's happening, because in this league with flags at quarterbacks, and some get more than others, Raider Nation wants to know what's going on with Aiden O'Connell. Gardner Minshew took a beating this year and was hit late too, but Aiden, no doubt about that. Lincoln, the second leading Vegas receiver in Week 16 was Amir Abdullah. 5 receptions, 47 yards. The long was 12. On top of 38 yards on the ground on 7 carries. This is a guy above the age of 30, keeps his body perfect. He's always just thinking about nutrition, working out, running cardio. And that's how he's in the league. And I didn't even mention special teams. I'm talking about him as a receiver and what he does on the ground. He's a complete football player.
When you talk about this running room and how it's the running back room, how it's been affected by injuries, miscues, just inefficient play, however you want to look at it, it's a pretty big room. And in the sense, and not necessarily big in the numbers, but you talk about the names, the possibilities with Madison, Abdullah, Sincere McCormick coming on, and we also know where Zeus has been, Zamir White. So it's a number of guys. And here's the thing. There are times you have to make adjustments. I've always been big on adjustments, JT. You know that. Mm-hmm. When you have different guys do different things. No two receivers are going to run the same post route the same way every time. Same thing can be said about the running backs running the football. And I just appreciate the fact when guys take advantage of their opportunities. We saw Sincere McCormick do it. We also saw, as you're talking about Amir Abdullah in this past game do it. That's great. And to me, that's a reward for not only players, it's a reward for the coaching staff because you put them in a position to succeed. When guys go in, you have to understand who they are, what type of carries they do best. And you have to know that in the back of your mind. More importantly, with your offensive line ever changing because of the injuries, you have to know what guys that block those plays best and how they block that. So all those are part of intangibles in coaching and coming together as a team.
Let's move on to the Saints where they don't have a really good pass rush overall. 7.3 yards per pass attempt. And here's a number that jumps out, Link. 242 yards passing allowed per game. That's 28th in the league. So the Raiders win a game. Are they going to win another game? They match up well against New Orleans, just like Jacksonville. And we don't know what the Chargers are going to do in the last game. We'll get to that next week. But this is a defense in New Orleans that gives up the pass. And I think the Raiders having some momentum with Bowers, Abdullah, as we talked about. And I didn't get to Jacoby Myers. I think spreading out the Saints and going 3 or 4 wide is going to make a difference in this one.
I don't know if we're a bit. I know that you say they don't have the high numbers of sack, but they still have internal pressures that I've seen so far on film. I still have a few things to look at. But I will say this. One of the things we have to shore up for the Raiders, you have to shore up the internal part of that pocket. The pocket is collapsing too fast. And when you don't have a mobile quarterback and because your tackles are exposed, it's hard to really for the quarterbacks to seep out the outside corners. They have to really push up the pocket. So you have to secure the pocket. You're showing a highlight right now where you talk about the interior of the pocket being secure and the quarterback's able to have success because he's able to survey down the field. I have seen in the past 3 games number of opportunities for the Raiders to be able to strike downfield. However, the internal pressure has collapsed the pocket, forcing Aiden O'Connell to take his look off the middle of the field. Can't really stretch the ball out there. That limits you, JT, because it only puts you on the outside of hashes of where you can go to with passes. And that's half the field. So you got to find a way to secure the internal part of that cup, that protection, to allow Aiden O'Connell to survey the middle of the field to strike there.
Yeah, you've been real honest with this offensive line, and I know you do individual breakouts and you look at the tape of this interior and exterior offensive line. I guess a better game against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's got a couple of good edge rushers, and overall,
yes,
I think that the grade will be better this week for the Raiders' offensive line. Jackson Bowers-Johnson comes out and he's throwing kisses to the fans as he's coming through with bats, for the warm-ups here. I love his energy.
Certainly.
DJ Glaze, Colton Miller. Andre James has been sitting on the sideline, but he was called into action overall. So I thought we saw a good, solid effort from the Raiders' O-line.
Just take away those miscues, the penalties. That's what you got to do. I mean, the thing is that when you're a team that's struggling, I believe you have to play damn near perfect. And it's almost impossible to say a perfect game. Everybody has bad plays. Everyone's going to have a bad series here and there. Everyone's going to have a bad game. The part about being a pro is limiting those mistakes, limiting those miscues, and hurting your team. And that's where we have to see the growth of this team. There's going to be times where you, as an offensive lineman, got to go, you know what? I got to go do everything perfect. I got to make sure every block is perfect. I got to get everything done. Can't have any missed assignments. It starts up here. It finishes in here.
So the Saints' run defense here, as I take a look at what they have to do in this game, very important. The Raiders are down to their last running backs. I mean, Alexander Madison, it doesn't seem like he's going to be the featured back here. It looks like Amir Abdullah is the guy that they're going to after Sincere McCormick, after Zamir White. I mean, you look at this team and what they're dealing with, the running back injuries here. I think they're going to try to run it. And Coach Pierce wants to start a game off physically running the ball.
Right.
If it works, you stay with it. If it doesn't work,
Certainly.
You start getting it to Brock earlier and you start getting it to Jacoby. But I think this is going to be an important game as I look at the stats here of what this team is able to do. Look, I think the Raiders are going to come out and try to run it, and then play action. If they can run it, could be the difference in this game.
I agree with you, JT. And here's another step that I'm going to take with you is the fact that the New Orleans Saints are going to bring an 8th man in the box.
Okay.
And I have played with coaches where they said, you know what, sometimes the running back, you got to be your own blocker. But with that being said, in order to start success, you're going to have to bring in a receiver or somebody from the outside to sort of dig out that eighth man and allow the widest man to go free. With that also being said, Aiden O'Connell is going to have to read the end man on the line of scrimmage. A lot of times they'll take a strong safety or they'll put an outside linebacker there to have a free man rushing off the edge. And because we don't have a lot of, naked or boot action, there's not a lot of guys who respect that sort of action by the quarterback when he has faking like he's going to hand off the ball or handing off the ball and rolling out. So they don't really respect that yet. You got to utilize that. So I would say this. I expect man blocking up front for the offensive line for the Raiders in order to attack this guy, to attack the New Orleans Saints. And I expect you to bring in a receiver, somebody from the outside that's been Jacoby Myers in the past, to dig out that safety or that extra man that's in the box and allow the widest man to go free. A lot of times the weakest tackling players on the team are cornerbacks on the outside in space. I'm not saying they're not good tacklers. I'm saying if you're talking about the more inferior tacklers, they're usually the corners. That's why most offenses like to leave them free to allow you to make them miss in space.
That's a good segue for Eric Allen coming up because he's next and he likes to tackle. Hey, Link, I know as of now, as we speak live with the Raiders here, that they went from maybe the 1 or 2 draft pick to 6. That's going to change. There's still 2 football games left for every team in this league, the teams that are struggling and the teams at the top trying to get to the playoffs. But I hope we can get away from it now. We're living in different times. A win is a win. You played at the highest level of this organization. I know it's going to have an effect on the draft selection, but this team needed a win. There's a lot of people walking around here who needed to be rewarded. The fans aren't in the weight room. They're not there watching these players get treatments, getting wrapped, and deciding if they can play one more game or if they have to shut it down. Players need to feel good about their effort. And I'm not saying this was a classic Raider game, one of the great games of all time, but to end a losing streak, I was here, you remember too, as a broadcaster when Carr lost his first 10 games and the Raiders got a win. And the next thing you know, the Raiders developed into a really good team. Maybe we'll look back 2 years from now and say the Raiders stopped it at 10 instead of 12 or 13. And now the Raiders a year or 2 from now are playing for the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember that time when they started off 0-10 because I believe the following game was against Kansas City in Oakland, right? When that Brady game, and they beat them, and that was rewarding. It was refreshing. Look, I will say this: when it comes to the position, the draft position, you might be able to you might have to get creative if you're Tom Telesco and the Raiders when it comes to that time. And here's the good thing that I will say, the positive, because I've mulled this over my entire time after the game yesterday, and after going home, flying back home. How are we going to do this? What do you? Because you and I, we talked extensively about it. I think the Raiders are in a unique position. One, because they have cap space, have draft collateral, and more importantly, you have a definite need. So, and the need comes up every year for every team. But because you have cap space and trade capital, you have options to where if you have to trade up, you might have to trade up. It might very well be, but you have that at your luxury. You're not hogtied by a salary cap, being in cap jeopardy or cap peril. So those are options for the Raiders. Going forward, I think they're going to be fine. And it's one of those awkward pills to swallow, if you will, because what do you want? Do you want your basis for the future or do you want it right now? And as a former player, I can tell you, JT, and I've talked to you about it, I don't know any other way. I don't know how to go out there and not play to win because I hate it to lose. Yeah. And I know a lot of players in that locker room share the same sentiment. If you hate to lose, you're going to do your best to win. Don't give a damn about a draft choice now. I'm talking about the here and now.
Absolutely. Lincoln, have a great week. Merry Christmas to you, the boys, the whole family. Great seeing you out there. We'll talk to you next week.
Merry Christmas, Raider Nation. Go Raiders.
There he is. Merry Christmas from Lincoln Kennedy. Here's our lineup, and we're working throughout the holiday because the season goes through the holiday. The morning tailgate, catch our morning show on our flagship station at the Rich Eisen. I'm on weekdays, noon to 2. Then Q Myers with Unnecessary Roughness, 2 to 5 p.m. Great to have Lincoln around. He puts all of our broadcasts in such a unique perspective because he was a multiple Pro Bowler. He won, played in a Super Bowl, and he understands what it's like to lose and how to stop a losing streak. So we really appreciate what Lincoln had to say. At the end of the game, I'm talking the last play of the game. I'm in the booth behind Jason Horowitz and Lincoln. I had my camera out, and I'm videoing them because it's a final play. I want to send it to those guys so they could have something to look back on in years to come. And everybody was excited, from our engineers to the interns to the staff to everybody who worked in the locker room after that game. The Raiders desperately needed a win. They got to win. Whatever happens in the future is going to happen. But take the win, enjoy the holiday, and remember, you're supposed to win every game. The ones you can't, you tip your cap to the opponent, but you try to come back the following week and win again. When we come back, a rare edition. My partner, Eric Allen, will join us, one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time. His countdown, hopefully, this year to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're all pulling for EA. We'll get his analysis of the Raiders' defense when we return on Raiders Rundown. All right, that was the opening segment. We're going to go into something we already recorded with Eric Allen. So I'm going to pop in and around here. I'll stay in the chat. But we already pre-taped this about an hour ago. And then Vinny Bonsignore will join us in studio. Raider D, is everybody good in here? Is everybody okay? I see the JT baller in here. So I know he's keeping it he's keeping a tight cap on this. And for everybody who's negative and wanted to lose, we don't care about you if you want to lose. We do not care about you if you want to lose. We do not care about your thoughts about losing. We understand them. We understand them and we can address it. But we don't care. You got to win. And if you're not a player or a coach, you should be smart enough as a fan to understand, and I'm one of them, I'm not a player and a coach. All I'm trying to do is give you access to the players and coaches. That's it. And run a fast-paced radio show. And the players and coaches want to win every game. If you can't figure that out, I'm worried about you. You need therapy. If you can't understand basic math, 1 + 1 = 2. 2 + 2 is 4. Professional football players try to win every bleeping game. Now, if you can understand that and you're frustrated, I'm with you. I'm frustrated too. But don't be ignorant. Don't be stupid. Don't clog up social media. Don't put your name on something that you're going to regret down the road. Some people sound really stupid with their explanation on wanting to lose. Just remember, Brock Bowers. If Brock Bowers walked up to you at anywhere, Smith's grocery store, if he walked up to you at Big Five, if you saw him in a restaurant, would you say, Brock, I want you to lose the remaining games? How dare you? You wouldn't do that. So don't think you all of a sudden found balls on social media to say it and not say it to Antonio Pierce. If he pulled over on the side of the road and the coach was there, would you say, Coach, I want you to lose every game, please? Stop it. You're sounding stupid, man. Act like an adult. Be happy when the team wins. The draft's going to happen either way. You're going to have no control of it. Either am I. Tom Telesco, Tom Brady, Mark Davis, they'll all figure it out. Victory Monday. No, we're not happy with the 12th pick, Tanner Jack. No one's happy with the 12th pick. But people are happy that they won the game. Are you smart enough to know that the team wanted to win the game, or are you too ignorant to understand that they wanted to win? Did you really think the team, not the fans, the team wanted to lose? The lowest of the bottom of the barrel of fans in any sport, from European soccer to baseball, hockey, football, whatever it is, are fans that sit at home and justify losing. Okay, I want a high draft pick too. I want the number 1 pick overall. It's not happening. So grow up. And they might get the 3rd pick, the 5th pick. They might trade up and get number 2. So come on. I speak the truth. Well, some people think I'm a shill and I make it up and I'm trying to save my paycheck. Anybody who effing watches me knows how critical I am of this team. Anybody who listens and watches knows how critical I am. Okay? I'm not going to go get fired because you're going to like it in your basement and then go back and never meet you. I want the team to win. I'll be right back.
It's game day, the day we've been waiting for. And this is more than just a game. It's a passion, a lifestyle. Here at the Raider Image, you're part of our team. Whether you're in the stands or cheering from home, we've got your back. Feel the confidence, own the game. We are the Raider Image. Your game, your gig. Exclusively at the Raider Image.
Welcome back to Raiders Rundown. Look at this. I got my guy, EA, here. How awesome is this? And coming off a win, you've been preaching complimentary football. I thought it was really important. 2 turnovers for the Raiders, turning it over. They didn't have a turnover in the game. Yeah. We've been waiting to see that for a while.
Yeah, JT, as you know, we've been around football a long time. And one of the numbers that are so important are the turnovers, and that's kind of, if you have defensive players who can turn it over and then you have an offense that takes care of the football, you're going to be in most games and more than not have a chance to win the ball game. And I think the guys are really doing a good job of emphasizing, things in practice and then going to the game and doing those things. And that says to me that they're all still bought in to the coaching staff because, when you're at practice, you're just not running around tackling, you're emphasizing little details, punching the ball out, leverage on tackles, the proper tackling techniques. And when you look at the film, for the most part, right, this has been a difficult year, but for the most part, they are really sound in those areas outside of, us turning the ball over too much.
Let's start from the safeties on the way back up to the front. I thought they had tremendous games. Trayvon Merrick, we've been saying it all year, but Isaiah Palomal punching the ball out, his physical play. What do you see with him in the box and then when he jumps into coverage?
Yeah, I think he's a much better, more consistent player in the box than in the deep third or in man-to-man. It's difficult. I think his first couple starts were really great because no one knows him, opposed to having a guy who, you have film on and everything like that. But, man, this last couple games, he has really popped in the middle of the football field, particularly, punching at balls, his tenacity, all those things you want from a safety, hard-hitting guy coming downhill and having the flexibility to be able to line up in different spots. I think he had a heck of a football game, really is taking advantage of his opportunities.
Flavion Chason had another big game there, too. I like this player, EA, because he's got a lot to prove. That was a team. That was a team he came into the league with. He's trying to find his way on this team for the future. With everything that went down with this defensive line, Christian Wilkins on the interior, Max and Kuntz on the edges, he took advantage of his opportunity.
He did. This coaching staff on the defensive line is continuing to look at him and figure out ways that he can really utilize his abilities because he has a lot of ability. I think for him, he just had to have some alternative moves. Like you have your one special pass rush move, but you got to have something off that. We've seen that in bunches with him. And it's nothing better than playing your old team, JT, and then having a good game and then winning the football game for him. So Caleb has really showed some sparks, and he's another player that is in the middle of a job interview, and he is killing it right now.
Let's get to Brock Bowers. It's always exciting to talk about him. 13 targets, 11 reception, 99 yards. He's breaking records. I just love the targets for him overall, his energy. And what do you see once he catches the ball? The sideline's right there, but he can get an extra yard or two. What jumps off the tape?
Yeah, what you hear a lot in receiver rooms is when a receiver is on the sideline, you want to finish with physicality. That means not stepping out of bounds. If you're a tight end, if you're a running back, put that shoulder down, run through that defender just to kind of send a message, right? And afterwards, you saw Brock kind of shake his head like, yeah, I'm here. He's a focal point in his offense. And it's really difficult for any player at any level to be the focal point of either your offense or defense and continue to pay results, to continue to be the kind of player, from the first snap to the last snap, to execute and have an impact in a football game. And he's doing that. And it's really difficult, for a young player, particularly at the tight end spot where a quarterback has to get you the ball. The line has to protect. It's not like a running back where you can just kind of turn around and hand off. It's easier for him to dominate a game if he's that kind of player, but you have to get open. And I like the fact, if you look a lot of times at the top of his route, when usually a tight end is just going to go left or right, he kind of pauses, gives a defender a little shake here or there with the shoulders, kind of trying to just play with his leverage a little bit, and then kind of gets out of the break, and he's still able to kind of explode out of his breaks, which one things that all receivers have to do if you're going to be successful, no matter if you're like a 4-3 guy, or you have to be able to separate at the top of your routes, and he's been able to do that.
Ryan Thomas Jr., 132 yards and a touchdown. LSU's got some receivers.
They do. They do.
What is going on here? We're talking about a guy who's able to jump in and play at a very high level here. Yeah. It's him and Brock for this offensive rookie of the year, and he's making a case for it too, even though we have Brock, and he's doing some things that are really unique. I thought Jacksonville found a great number one for the future.
They did. And receiver-wise, I'm not sure what they're feeding those guys down there, but those receivers are incredible. He has a great spark about him. He's not like a 4-2, 4-3 guy, but he's the kind of guy who's a really sound route runner, good hands. Obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars are focusing on him. He's the focal point of their offense. And again, for a young player who's played some good football in college to come here at the end of the season, being able to be targeted over double-digit times and then give their team 10 catches, a touchdown, over 100 yards receiving against, a defense, we're pretty good. You know, we can line up with the best of them at times. Just really love the fact that this young player is playing really hard and someone that they can count on at the end of the season.
I haven't asked you in a while about Tyree Wilson. 4 sacks on the year, 23 total tackles, 15 solo. Yeah. These next couple of games are really important.
They are.
Because he's going to have an opportunity to be isolated and get to the quarterback, knock balls down at the line of scrimmage. What have you seen from him lately?
What's going to be his game, JT? That's kind of what we're trying to figure out right now. Is he going to be able to be a, close to 10-sack guy? Is he going to be the kind of guy who gets to the quarterback and, gets his hands up and tips the ball away, so have some PBUs? Is he going to be the kind of guy who can count on in the run game? This is really, really important for him. Is he going to be someone we can count on to pencil in as a starter? Or is he kind of guy going to be a situational pass rusher? These next 2 games, really important to figure out what kind of future is going to be for him. I can't explain to you how important these next couple games are for him and how he has to prepare and practice, the things that he takes from the practice field.
Right.
Play the Jaguars this week.
Right.
Because of Max, of course,
You played for a little bit in New Orleans. What's it like to be a player down there during the week, knowing teams are coming in and fan bases are coming in to take over Bourbon Street? Everybody's got to do their jobs and play football. And I have many good memories going to Super Bowls there. Raiders won Super Bowl 15. They had iconic stories there. I was down there with Coach Gruden and Janikowski as he talked about that. And you look at this trip, it's a hotbed for Raider Nation. When New Orleans shows up on the schedule every few years, Raider fans go, that's a good spot for us to go on a road trip.
JT, it's different. It is. When you're playing down there and you're the team, the week before the games, you're getting multiple calls from all over the country from your friends waiting to come to Bourbon Street to come out and hang out. And, unfortunately, we were not in a good spot as far as the team-wise. So it was a struggle. We were multiple coaches and players and things like that. And the city is just really craving for a championship caliber football team. And the fan base is a lot like the Raiders fan base, where they're going to come, they're going to support. But unlike the Raiders, there hasn't been those magical times where they're able to hoist up the Lombardi Trophy or go to those AFC Championship games or playing those iconic games for the National Football League. But the fan base is there. It's great. The experience, the day of the game is a great experience if you're coming in to watch it. And, of course, you're going to have your family
and then my wife's coming with me to New Orleans.
Good. Oh, good.
Yeah. So she's actually going on Thursday and doing a hotel on points.
Good.
Hello.
Hello, Margot.
She's never been.
So
Oh,
we'll
good. That'll be great.
do that open, and then I'll let you know when
thank
you'll
you,
do your
man.
read.
Yeah, Alexander saw it, you know.
I appreciate
After that,
Beer.
is there anything you really want to touch on with
Oh,
Vinny?
man.
at all?
No,
You, anything I want to touch
It's
on?
not the dandruff, that's for sure.
No, what does Vinny want to touch on? He's the guest.
What
so-
you got?
I think just whatever.
Yeah.
It'd just be, just getting the monkey off their back. I
Yeah,
would say.
getting the monkey off
Some
their
of the
back.
young players like obviously Brock,
Mhm. Yeah.
Trayvon and Isaiah, if you want to
Yeah.
talk about them.
Also, I think what you're writing about is where the path is for next year. You know, for
Yeah.
those who were mentioned in the draft, you said there's a path, that path will change.
Yeah, the path will change. There's always, depending on, like, Jacksonville has their quarterback.
Yeah.
New England has their quarterback. So
Mhm.
there's always they won't be trying to trade up from 13 to number 3. It'll be in
Yeah.
so much easier to do that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Spillane at all, or
Yeah.
we got
So
a pad for him?
You got a package for him?
Yeah.
Okay. Spillane's good because,
Well,
what's that?
always good.
Yeah.
And that's another guy that
Where's his contract status?
this is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We got a Morik pack, an Isaiah pack, so we got a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, we'll hit the
guys
defense. We'll do
got-
more defense other than Brock.
And we got a D line one too. I think
Okay.
they were tied for first in pass deflections or D lines.
Very hard to get their hands on the
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah, so we'll just run the open, and then I'll let you know when to read the promo right after.
Yeah, where is that again? You just gave that
It
to
should
me.
be if not, I got another copy of
I
it.
think
somewhere.
it's in this group.
I'll grab one.
No, I got it. Hold on, let's find it. Ooh. Grab the other one, please.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
Yep. Levi?
Yep.
Yep, got it. Okay.
The Raiders rookies have played the second most snaps. The Raiders rookies have played the second most snaps in the league, behind just the Rams, sure.
For rookies.
Very, I have the whole, going into week 16, but it's only gotten
Got it.
more since yesterday.
Let's get your mic on, my mic on, we're good to go. How's the show then in the morning? Good. Advertisers. Gotta get advertisers.
I got to start, my whole offseason is going to be good.
We continue to tell you everything about the Raiders now. They play hard. We know that. You know that. There is no quitting this team.
I mean, he's just been showing up each and every week. And sometimes it's not the most glamorous stats, but it's all the little things he's doing well.
I love it when guys take full advantage of their opportunities. Chase Hunt is doing just that.
This guy, when you watch him play, he's a football player. Where they're able to put him on the field, it just makes him limitless.
Raiders.com is your home for all things silver and black. Read Levi Edwards' analysis, Brock Bowers, Amir Abdullah, and the Raiders' defense in their win against the Jaguars. To stay up to date on all Raider news, visit Raiders.com/news. Vinny Bonsignore always joins us. We're thrilled to have him here, our Raider insider, and our teammate on the morning tailgate. So from the time you were there for warm-ups to the locker room after the victory, paint a big picture for us on what it was like.
Yeah, and obviously everybody hears the talk about draft and draft projections and everything like that. And I've tried to, tell my readers and listeners and there's no talk about that in that locker room amongst the coaches in the building here. They want to win. That's why they do this, as Antonio Pierce talked about this morning. They don't do this to lose. They do this to win. Everyone else can focus on on all of that. And I think it speaks to their professionalism that they've been able to tune all of that out. It also speaks to where this team is in terms of their journey. You got a lot of young players going into week 16. The Raiders had the most snaps, second most snaps, just behind the Rams, who had a really good draft class themselves. In terms of players, rookies playing snaps in the end. It's a very young team, and they've got their niches to create. They've got their careers to think about, their improvement, their development, and they've stuck with it in spite of some trying times. The Raiders, I give them a lot of credit for sticking with it. And I know that the win yesterday, might have rankled some people within the fan base. That's okay. That's every fan has the right to cheer for whatever it is that they want to cheer with. But there was a lot of satisfaction for the Raiders finally kind of getting that monkey off their back. It had been since September 29th.
Yeah.
You think about that for a second. That's over 80 days since they were able to enjoy a victory, and knowing how hard these guys work and how much they actually care about this. It was a nice day for them.
Let's spotlight a few players and start off with Trayvon Merrick and his contract status, where he is in the league, how he's developed. And what do you think Antonio Pierce and especially Tom Telesco think of him going forward?
Yeah, I know that Antonio Pierce, and he's spoken glowingly about Trayvon and his progress and progression and development. And in particular this year, because, he was, not that he was second fiddle to Marcus Epps, but Marcus Epps was the general back there. And when Marcus Epps left, and it was very early in the season, it left kind of a leadership void at the back end of the Raiders defense. And Trayvon Merrick has comfortably filled those shoes to the point where he's now, considered a leader of this defense. And aside from just the physical aspect of the game, and last night he had a nice game in run support, he had a nice game breaking up passes, but also the communication element has improved. And so for me, and when you start sizing up, who do the Raiders need to keep? And not that they want to move on from any of these guys, because a lot of the guys on the last year of their contracts here, Trayvon Merrick, Nate Hobbs, Robert Spillane, Divine Diablo, Malcolm Kuntz hadn't gotten a chance to get out there. But a lot of those guys are making strong cases or have made strong cases to stay, but it's hard to keep everybody. Trayvon Merrick is a guy that I would think is a pretty high priority for this team.
I would assume you'd think the same thing about Robert Spillane, but also other teams would be interested in a green dot, linebacker who's making plays here in the Raiders. He seems like he's a perfect fit for this team going forward. What have you seen with his play recently?
Yeah, it's not just even recently. It's just since day one. I remember the day that they brought him out in his opening press conference here. I remember looking around the room to some of my colleagues going, wow, okay. Impressive. Nobody had really known much about Robert Spillane, and that's no fault of his own. There was a log jam in Tennessee. There was a log jam in Pittsburgh. That he wasn't good enough to be on the field, but they had some good players that were ahead of him. That's sometimes how it works. So he was sort of an unknown quantity, but from day one here, he's been really impressive. And it's just been the consistency that he's operated in, whether it's how he goes about his business, his play on the field, his leadership. It's just been kind of a revelation, and I don't see how the Raiders could let him leave this building. But it's a career that he's got to keep an eye on. Maybe he wants to go someplace that offers maybe a better chance to win. I don't know what it's all going to come down to, but it feels like he's a priority as well.
Vinny Bonsignore is our guest, our insider. So let's go through the future of the backups who are now starting on the defensive line. The young players, Tyree Wilson, taken 7 overall, Butler, what we've seen in the interior. On the edge there with Chason. I mean, there's a lot of guys here who are trying to make this roster next year by playing these final 3 games, counting the Jaguar game. How do you see that evolving going forward?
Yeah, for sure. And I think if there's one silver lining to the injuries that the Raiders have experienced, and in particular that defensive line, when you talk about Malcolm Kuntz, you talk about Christian Wilkins, and obviously Max Crosby, it's created an opportunity for some of these younger players. And in Chason's case, a player that kind of got kicked to the curb by his previous team and was on a second chance and had to make the most of it, and he has. But when you're talking about, because coming into the season, depth was an issue, right? Yeah. All right. So behind Christian, behind Max, behind Malcolm Kuntz, what was it going to look like? Well, I think we've seen now what it looks like. And last night was kind of a revelation in itself. They're still able to get pressure on the quarterback and play well against the run as well, which is just as important. So if you're projecting to next year, and let's say the Raiders do bring back Malcolm Kuntz, and obviously Christian and Max are going to be back healthy, Now you feel comfortable about the depth at defensive line, whereas coming into the season, maybe you weren't as much. So again, a silver lining, and you have to look for positives in a season like this, but certainly that's one of them.
With Brock's upcoming record of Mike Ditka surpassing him, first off, it tells you a lot about Mike Ditka and how great of a player he was.
That's crazy.
In an era where they were handing the ball off
Yes.
a lot more than now. And I know Coach well, and I'm sure he'd be very proud to see Brock Bowers break his record. But what's changed with him, Brock? Because I know what you're getting from him in the locker room, and it's just win, win, win. But from the B-roll that I saw, and you were there, he was really happy. Coming from that Georgia locker room where they didn't lose much, you saw a bigger smile on him yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I got to give my father a credit. He used to always talk about Mike Ditka, and I never quite understood until now I'm putting all the numbers together. I'm like, oh, I guess he was pretty good
player
from day one. And I think Brock Bowers, he may have experienced 3 losses at Georgia, and that might be on the high end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they won 2 national championships when he was there. Their losses were few and far between. So I can only imagine what it's like for a young player like that to have to kind of go through this sort of turbulence early in his career in terms of the wins and losses. Obviously, everything is happening on a big level for him on the field. He's been a stud, just flat out. But, you know, having to still learn to grind through it, even in a season like this, I give him a lot of credit for staying with it, being a true professional, working on his craft, getting better, being a consistent, reliable go-to player. But I'm sure deep down, he never wants to go through a season like this. A lot of guys are like that. I've talked to a few guys, Jackson Powers Johnson, DJ Glaze, about kind of going through this difficult season together as young players. And how, like, look, maybe get the bad out early on and never want to do that again. But the fact that they have guys that they can look at now and a shared experience of, look, we kind of all went through that together. We don't ever want that to happen again, but we learned from it, we grew from it, and maybe we're better off for it that they were able to do it collectively. Because there's a lot of guys in that room. Look at Jackson Powers Johnson. Do you think he's lost a lot of games at Oregon? No. So this is all new to them, and I don't think it's anything that they ever want to be a part of again.
With less than a minute, give us something quick on what you're writing about the draft path, because you're a journalist, plus you do radio. I'm just a radio guy. When you look at all of this, it's not the end of the world overall. If you're 6, if you're 8, if you're 4, if you're 3, there's a lot of football left. A lot of changes are coming.
There's a lot of football left. There's a lot of different ways that this can turn out. But even if it did stay status quo, the Raiders are at number 6. You look at who's number 2 and number 3 now. It's the New England Patriots at number 2. The Jacksonville Jaguars are number 3. They both got their quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just say New England drafts Travis Hunter, the great Colorado player. And now Jacksonville at number 3 is like, well, we don't need a quarterback. Travis is off the board, got a whole bunch of holes to fill. Maybe it's in our best interest to trade down, collect some assets to fill a bunch of different holes, and let somebody who needs the quarterback come up. And as opposed to last year, where the Raiders were coming up from number 13 or trying to come up from number 13 into the top 3, which was never going to happen. Now they may be at 5 or 6, which is a much easier path, and maybe some teams that are more willing to deal down than the Patriots were, the Bears were, and the Washington Commanders were, because they needed quarterbacks last year as well. So not the end of the world, and there would be a path to move up as well.
Merry Christmas and enjoy New Orleans with your wife. She
Likewise.
hasn't seen it before. You're going to have a blast there.
Absolutely, and Merry Christmas to you as well.
You got it. That's Vinny Bonsignore. Appreciate Vinny coming in here. And here's our promo coming up on our channel right here on Raider Nation Radio, The Morning Tailgate, The Rich Eisen Show. My shows every day from noon to 2. And then we have Q Myers, who comes up every day from 2 to 5 p.m. Vinny does an amazing job. Catch all his work at Vegas Nation, everything he does on our radio channel, and one of the best sports writers you'll see in the country here, no doubt about that. That was a festive holiday hour here, right? Everybody enjoy the holiday. Have some fun. We appreciate everybody on Raiders Rundown that subscribes to the Raiders YouTube channel, follows me, because I'm going now live on my Raw feed, where you can find me at JTthe YT on YouTube. I put that up there every day. And I want to thank everybody and wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I got a bunch of radio this week, so you'll be able to find me on all my platforms. But for everyone at Silver and Black Productions, we appreciate everybody being in here, because what this group does, and especially the group I work with today, they do an unbelievable job. A lot of young members of the Raider Nation and Silver and Black Production who do just a great job, and they do a great job every week, trying to bring you the best highlights and B-roll and sound bites and access in and around this organization, and the organization cooperates pretty good. We're one of the only shows in America in the NFL that has access to a head coach every week, the opportunity to talk to players in the building, and then turn it around quickly in real time and get it to you on all forms of content at Raiders.com. So I'm fired up. Our Raiders won the game. Raider Nation, I'll get you through anything, a win or a loss, and we'll continue on. Coming up next, check out my show again. I got a couple other guests, including Levi Edwards, who will join us. So we'll jump in and do that again on radio only and on my YouTube channel. For everyone at Silver and Black Productions, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. If I don't talk to you before the end of the year, Happy New Year. And thanks for always joining us on Raiders Rundown. Thanks, everyone. All right, we're back. We are back on radio. Here we go. Get a little bit of a break here. A little bit of a break, and then we'll do this. Appreciate everybody. See how calm and cool we are? They won a game. We're not freaking out. We're not acting crazy. Just doing our job, man. Just doing our job. Right? Always silver and black. All right, hour number 2. Good guest as always. As we open this up, Sam Monson will join us from PFF. He's always a great guest. Get him out of the gate. Hey, Bobby, you got me? Okay. All right, we'll get Sam here. I'll break. I'll rant a little bit, and then we'll get Levi at the bottom of the hour. Okay. It makes you sick, Devin, that a true Raider doesn't go 3-12 and poke his chest out. Hey, you tool. No one's pumping their chest out, you effing idiot. They just won a game. You get what that happened? They just won a game. No one's popping their chest and popping champagne, you dummy. Understand professional teams play to win every game, okay? So calm down or get tossed out of this. I'd love to toss your ass out of here. Yes, the Bricktator is back.
The heart of your business. So how do you harness this potential? Insperity can help. From recruiting and onboarding to employee development and retention, we'll help you build a stronger, more resilient organization. See the difference the right approach to human resources can make, because how you HR matters. Find out more at insperity.com/HR matters.
Over 40 years ago, I started the Richard Harris Law Firm right here in Nevada. And today we've grown to be the largest personal injury firm in the state. We got there by doing one thing. If there's a win, we're right in the middle of it. The Richard Harris Law Firm, 444-4444.
This is JT for the Black Hole, home of football's most notorious fans. If you're a diehard Raider fan, this is your home. Become a member today and receive 20% off online purchases, hotel discounts for home and away games, access to members-only merchandise, and much more. All memberships are now lifetime memberships. Once a member, always a member. If you bleed...
All right, here we go, hour number 2.
Blackhole.com today. That's theblackhole.com.
Modelo is an official cerveza of the Las Vegas Raiders and the JT the Brick Show. Modelo Especial is the model Mexican lager. Everyone knows that hard work deserves a fitting reward.
Man, I got a long day today, man. I got to be at Win at 4 from 4 to 7.
It's the morning tailgate.
And fans are going to sit there and be like, rolling their eyes. You have to give a ton of credit to this team. The fight that they continue, the talent disparity that they continually go up against. The fact that they shoot themselves in their foot and they continue to fight back. The fact that that game even came down to a final play is incredible, considering how bad both sides of the field were.
The Morning Tailgate, weekdays at 7 a.m. on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m.
The Raiders are in Louisiana to take on the Saints Sunday at 10 on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m. KRLV Las Vegas.
You're listening to the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off and react for over 20 years.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. He takes up off the middle, and he's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 20 years.
Open at the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, hour number 2 of the show today. We are on radio, and I'm streaming live from Raiders headquarters on my YouTube channel, JT the Brick YT. If you want to get in here, subscribe for free and see what it's like to broadcast from a global headquarters. Hour number 1 was Raiders Rundown. We usually do that every Wednesday and turn that into a TV show on Saturday night, but with the holidays, Christmas falling on a Wednesday, the way our schedule was, I'll have the coach tomorrow on Tuesday. We did Raiders Rundown in the first hour, and this is hour number 2. Levi Edwards at the bottom of the hour, and Sam Monson will join us momentarily, and we'll have him on. He's in his regular spot that he joins us every week at. Raiders won. They beat Jacksonville 19-14. I was one of the last to leave last night after the postgame show, one of the first to get in the building today, as we already produced Raiders Roundtable. And I can tell you that everyone in the building's pretty happy that they won. For those fans who don't understand that, can't contemplate that, the fans who actually don't understand that the players and the coaches want to win and they get paid to win and they don't tank ever, and this team's played their ass off to win every game and lost 10 in a row, and they're happy that won. All I would say is unfollow me. Don't follow me. I want you to listen because I make my living off of that, but you know, the social media people that are freaking out about a win, man, times are changing around this organization. When you're unhappy with the win, I know the draft position isn't going to be great. It's not ideal. We understand what's going to happen going forward, but we'll live with that in March and April. And I'm sure that the Raiders will get a good player. If they want to trade up for a quarterback, they'll have the ability to do that. They have a lot of money to go get the player that they want if they want a specific player overall. So there's a lot that's going to happen here. It's the unknown. But the known was the Raiders won. One of those two teams are going to win, everybody. One of the two teams are going to walk out there. Jacksonville had to fly all the way from Las Vegas to Jacksonville. That's not an easy flight. And the Raider players were able to go down into the locker room with the owner, the coach. Everybody was happy. I don't know if you saw the picture of Colton Miller. I mean, the guy had a smile from ear to ear. And all the players were happy that they won. And if you don't understand that, I'm confused and I feel sorry for you.
Right.
I really feel sorry for you if you don't understand why football teams want to win. I don't get it. I know you want a better draft pick, but winning is what players and coaches get evaluated for. Raiders got to win. We'll see what happens in New Orleans as we continue. Every Monday, we talk to Sam Monson. What a great job he does with the podcast and all of his great work. Check out what he does, which is fantastic. Check the mic from the 33rd team. Sam, I want to begin with the Commanders' win, and it took a lot for Philadelphia to lose that game. Jalen Hurts getting concussed, the drop by Smith late in that game. There was some officiating question marks overall, but that's one of the best comeback wins I've seen this year. How did you see it?
Yeah, it was. It was really impressive for them. And, yeah, you have to put the caveat out there that the Eagles were without their starting quarterback for the majority of the game, and that obviously affects things. But Washington hung a ton of points on what was the league's number one defense going into that game. That part is not massively affected by Kenny Pickett being in the lineup at quarterback, and that was different to the last time they played. They hung tough the last time they played for a while, and then Philadelphia just kind of broke them on both sides of the ball, and they were not able to keep pace. This time it was very different. They were able to execute that comeback. Okay, they needed to ride their luck a little bit. The first time Jaden Daniels had the kind of the game-winning drive opportunity, he made a mess of it and threw an interception. But when they got the break, when they got Devontae Smith dropping a pass that would have pretty much iced the game, second time around, they took advantage of that opportunity and got the touchdown. And it was a really impressive sort of statement performance from them.
Yeah, for Devontae Smith, a Heisman Trophy winner and a really good player in this league, to have a drop like that wins the game on the road in the division and keeps him in the hunt for the number one seed overall, because we know that Detroit is in a situation down the stretch here that they have to play against Minnesota. That was one of the most important drops of the year. Let's stay in that division and the Minnesota win and your takeaway. You know how difficult it is to go in Seattle and get a win in front of the 12s, and that would have been the Seahawks win to go 9-6 on the year. The Vikings 13-2. Jefferson had another monster game and more money for Sam Darnold, no matter what the Vikings decide to do with him in the offseason.
Yeah, really impressive performance from him, particularly late on. You know, they, I think, had the best of that game early on, but the Seahawks were able to come back, make it a really tough game. And then in the fourth quarter, the Seahawks pressure packages, the defense from Mike McDonald, it was really starting to have its way with Minnesota's offensive line. Darnold, I think, had 8 dropbacks in the fourth quarter and was under pressure on 5 of them, but he was able to make those plays, including that touchdown to Justin Jefferson, where he steps up into the pocket, evades pressure, and fires that ball. It was a really impressive performance from them, and they just keep continually keeping calm and winning these tight games. Whether or not they should get to that stage, you know, is a different question. But when the game is tight in the fourth quarter, they have shown time and time again that they're capable of answering.
Sam Monson's our guest from the 33rd team. What did you see with the Falcons and Michael Penix on tape when you were watching in real time? Because if Cousins was playing right, and the fact that the Bucs lost to the Cowboys, I'd rather have Cousins playing down the stretch with his experience. Now that they have an advantage over Tampa Bay, Atlanta's got no choice. They're going to stay with the unexperienced Penix, who plays next on the road.
Yeah, I thought that he was really impressive on his debut. The score flatters him a little bit because, you know, the Giants kept turning the ball over and giving them either defensive scores or short fields to work with. So, you know, it wasn't quite as impressive maybe as the scoreline indicates, but I think his performance individually was better than his stat line. He had a couple of passes that were dropped that would have given him more yardage. You know, his adjusted completion rate was like 81% as opposed to 66, 67 when you factor in those drops. And obviously the interception was a good pass that Kyle Pitts somehow found a way of throwing at a defensive back and causing what could have been a touchdown to actually be a turnover instead. The biggest thing, though, I think, when you watch them play is it adds back, you know, a whole chapter of the playbook that has been taken out to create an offense that works for Kirk Cousins' limitations. And you're right, Cousins' strength is his brain, it's his experience. Unfortunately for him, he's been turning the ball over a ton. So the thing, like his biggest asset has been a weakness, and his physical limitations are clear. He's not able to, you know, drive a 15-yard outright route from the far hash anymore. Certainly not unless the situation is entirely optimal. You know, his feet are underneath him. He can step into the throw. There's a whole bunch of things that they had to strip out of that playbook because he's not really capable of running them. Now I think you get to see that offense in a much more fair and valid representation of what offense coordinator Zach Robinson wants to run. You know, there's more things on the table, and I think that makes the offense as a whole more potent. And, you know, Penix didn't make mistakes in that game. So if he's able to play a clean brand of football, simply his physical superiority at this stage, I think, opens up that offense and makes it more dangerous. That probably offsets the experience differential.
Sam Monson's our guest. I agree with everything you just said there. I want to go back to the Chiefs' win over the Texans. I mean, how the Texans going to win a playoff game without Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs? I've seen it before where a quarterback goes down right before the playoffs, a good player, or someone very good. You don't have a chance to win. And that Houston team showed a lot of emotion. I mean, C.J. Stroud broke down in the end zone when he saw the condition of his teammate who blew out his knee here. How do you expect the Texans to react to that, Sam?
It's tough. They're really banged up now. You know, every year there's a team or two that really sort of limps their way into the playoffs just under the weight of injuries that they're dealing with. In addition to, obviously, Stephon Diggs has been down for a while. Tank Dell goes down in this game. They lost Shaq Mason, the right guard, as well. At one point, the right tackle was down and he came back into the game. But you know, that entire offensive line has been banged up for a while. The receiving core is taking a beating. they've still got some playmakers. I mean, Nico Collins is a spectacular receiver, one of the best in the game. Joe Mixon at running back is a really important part of that team. Dalton Schultz is a good tight end. But really, it's putting a ton of pressure on C.J. Stroud to operate an offense that's only going to flow through 2 or 3 playmakers. And that's really difficult to do in today's NFL. So, the assignment is getting really difficult for Houston now.
Tell you, Sam, I'm struggling with social media compared to my podcast and radio shows and what I do here because Raider fans are freaking out that they won a game. There's a franchise based on Just Win Baby and Al Davis and lighting a torch in memories of victories and not losses there, but you win a game and you go from 1 or 2 to 6 overall in the draft. You're doing a lot of math now. You're seeing these potential draft picks. You know that Jacksonville's going to stay with Trevor Lawrence and Drake May is going to stay with the Patriots. So there's going to be a chance for teams that don't have a top 2 pick to get Travis Hunter or maybe trade up in a couple of months to go get a quarterback. They're just going to have to give up a lot to get him.
Yeah, and that's the key. Yes, everybody in the NFL wants to win these games. Certainly the players are always trying to win. The coaches are coaching to win. They're not interested in tanking for a better draft spot. But it was a damaging win for their draft spot. And that's really the bottom line. And the reason that I think is potentially an issue this year is the early look at this draft says it's a 2 quarterback class, and it's not like a year ago we were talking about 5 or 6 guys going in the first round. And if you were picking 6 or 7, you were still going to have at least 1 or 2 quarterbacks available. This could be a 2 quarterback draft. And if one of them goes number 1 overall, the next guy is going to be gone before the 5th or the 6th pick. Probably not by the team, like New England picking, but by somebody trading up.
Right.
They're going to get selected in that top 5 picks. So if you're a team like the Raiders and this win drops you down to 6 or 7, you might need to trade back up again. And that's doable, but it's draft capital or players or whatever that you wouldn't have needed to give up if you had found a way to lose this game. And you're right, teams don't tend to do that, but they don't always avoid doing it. Remember the Eagles a couple of years ago, pulled their starters from a game late in the season to avoid winning it and keep a higher draft spot. And, the dominoes, you can trace that back to quite a lot of the sort of positive developments that the Eagles went through by maintaining that high pick.
Sam, finally, your overall perspective, because you're fearless, you'll say what you think, and you see these teams playing on Saturday. Then you bring them back on Christmas and knowing travel and healing and the players aren't going to be able to practice this week, clearly, after playing so recently. It feels to me like one of my callers said, the NFL has a bazooka set up against the NBA, saying NBA is Christmas. It's always been Christmas, not anymore. And I don't have a problem with the NFL playing on a Friday and Saturday. They do it on Thursdays. But on a Wednesday, really, with the recovery for the Steelers, a very physical team, and that's a big game, Chiefs Steelers, for the Steelers to try to hold on to the division over the Ravens. And then we just watched the Texans and what happened. Both those games are also on Netflix, which most of the country doesn't have. We think they do, but most of the country doesn't. So very interesting. How do you come to grips with the NFL playing on Wednesday and putting these players in this situation?
I mean, it shows what we've known for decades, that in the NFL, the dollar is king. They're going to do whatever makes the most money. And if that involves putting games on Christmas Day for Netflix, that's what they're going to do. But it's blatant hypocrisy. You can't be talking about player safety and, trying to remove a certain hit from the game if you are going to ask these guys to have a 5-day turnaround to play 2 football games. That's dangerous. I mean, it is. Recovery is huge. You hear players talk about, playing a football game is like being in a car crash every weekend. It takes you the entire week to get any kind of recovery going, to be able to turn around and do it again the following week. This is, I think, an unfair ask for them from the player point of view without giving them something else in return. If you want to give them a 5-day turnaround, those guys should have buys on either side of that recovery window. It's too much. That's exposing these guys to injuries that I think are going to be exacerbated relative to a normal weekly schedule.
I download the podcast. I get it weekly here from the 33rd team. Check the mic. Hey, Sam, for you and your family, Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you after the new year. Thank you for everything you do for us.
You too, man. Take it easy.
All right. You too. Happy Christmas. Yes, I like how he said that. Is it Merry Christmas or is it Happy Christmas? The Irish NFL analyst, Sam Monson, co-host with the Check the Mic podcast with Steve Palazzolo. It's really good. I mean, I don't download many podcasts, Smartlist, Fly on the Wall. This one, Check the Mic, Peter King, when his podcast was popping, the JT and Looney podcast, my longtime podcast partner, Tom Looney, JT and Looney. We produced the podcast. We used to do it every week, and now we're doing it every 2 weeks because he's buried doing what he's doing. I'm buried doing what I'm doing. But I appreciate Sam there. So Levi Edwards will join us at the bottom of the hour. So there's an elephant in the room. The elephant in the room are the fans that want to lose. Okay, the fans that are really upset today about the draft pick. All right, I can just tell you a few things that I know. I don't make stuff up. I don't. I exaggerate a bit, but I don't lie and make stuff up. I'm in the game. I'm sitting in the crowd, and I'm sitting in the booth at the end of the game. When the Raiders are driving and scoring and winning, the fans like it. They're happy about it. Are there a few fans that are saying, I hope they throw an interception? I hope my team, the Raiders, fumble as they're wearing a Raider jersey at a home game, spending that money? I've never met that man or woman. And I've met more Raider fans than you. I can promise you that. I've met more Raider fans than the majority of anybody on God's green earth. I'm in the parking lot. I'm at every tailgate. I'm at the game. I'm at the torch. If you know someone who knows more Raider fans than me on a weekly basis, point them out. I'd love to meet the guy or gal. Love to. So when it comes to that, I understand why you want the first pick in the draft. Okay, but I don't understand what it's like to wear the colors, and claim to be Raider Ricky or Raider Paulie or Raider Mikey or Raider Vinny and have a Twitter account or a Facebook account and go, oh my God, we won. What a bunch of blankety blank. I can't believe it. Wow. I mean, what are you like in real life if you like that on social media? Now, the good thing is most people, when they get into social media, they dive into a sewer and they act the way they don't act in real life. Because everybody I meet in real life is the best guy. JT, can I get a picture? Can I buy you a Modelo? But you look on social media and it's the sky is falling. So today I put out a video walking into the building. I am here for Raider therapy. The phones are open at 702-365-9200. Phones are open. I could be your therapist today. I don't like being the Raider therapist. What I like to be is the Raiders cruise director. I'm going on the Raider cruise later this year. They asked me to do a little MC work. I'm going to go on an 8-day cruise with Raider fans and the alumni. Okay, it's going to be a happy, festive event. Don't know who's going to get in the draft. Don't know who's going to save the franchise, who's going to change it all. But I did talk to the owner, Mark Davis, on the sideline before the game. And I can tell you Mark wants to win every game. And Mark was there in the locker room after the game pretty happy and talking to the players happy about the win. So just be able to handle that, because I really think you look silly, not stupid, silly if you can't handle a win. The team lost 10 in a row. They want to get this gorilla off their back. You wanted them to lose 13 in a row heading into the offseason for you. I get that. I think some people are deranged and nuts and want to lose. I get it. But the point is, please understand that the players and coaches don't want to join you in that misery. They don't want to join you. They want to be left out of that. So again, blame me. I'll take the blame for the win. And just ask yourself this question. If you were walking into Walmart or you were walking into a restaurant and you saw the coach there, a Max Crosby or Robert Spillane, would you have the beer muscles to walk up to him and say, man, I hope you lose every game? No, you wouldn't. No one would. But you want to do it on social media because it makes you what? Makes you feel better, makes you feel cool, makes you feel tough. Oh, and if I get back to you and tell you that, I got a box of Kleenex for you. I'm about winning. I will not allow losing into my DNA. And when the team's losing 10 in a row, it's not because I get a paycheck from the Raiders and I want them to win a game. It has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with the fact that you want to win when you compete in sports, because people get injured. Did you watch the Houston Texans game? Tank Dell went down in the end zone. They couldn't show the replay. It was so graphic. I saw it once. It was squeamish. You think everybody on that team's looking around saying what's going to happen next year? No, they're thinking about their brother, someone who had to spend the night in the hospital. If you ever go into a locker room after a football game, you see players getting taped up, getting treatment. Some Raiders, because I put out the tweet, the Raiders are behind the Lions, second most injuries this year and players not available on IR. I've been on the Raider team charter when they travel and go home, where players have to get wheelchaired onto the plane and be in a row with their leg up, or they have an abdominal injury, or they blew out their shoulder or their MCL and their career could be over. I've seen them as I walk to my seat. I think fans need to get in perspective on what this team gets paid to do. And if you're a fan, you have the right to be a fanatic and to be a fan. But to tell an organization to lose games for you because you want a mythical pick, that no one in that building yesterday said, I want to lose so we can get Cam Ward. Not one person in that room, especially the quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. So am I thrilled with the record this year? No. Have I been more critical than I've ever been in my 27 years with the play of this team? I would say so. But that's not enough for some people. We take it week by week. We're on to New Orleans. We'd like to talk about the game yesterday. If you'd like to pat Brock Bowers on the back, if you'd like to go and, talk about next year, you can talk about next year. But the team went from the first or second overall draft pick to now number 6. They might go from number 6 to number 3 or 4, depending on what happens here. They might go from 6 to 8. I don't know what's going to happen. But I hope I get the opportunity to talk about it with you in the offseason and figure out who the pick's going to be, even though no one knows. Right? No one knows who the pick's going to be. So it's expensive to win games and lose games. It's a business. And yesterday, if you're a Raider fan, a real Raider fan, yeah, I'm calling on you, the real fans of the Raiders, you'd be happy for this group. You'd be very happy for this group that won a game. Because when they leave the locker room and they see their toddlers, their kids, or their mom or dad, or their wives or girlfriends, fiancés, and they're all happy and they're hugging and taking pictures and then driving home to go to dinner for Christmas, you would understand what it's like to be a part of this family and be a real member of the Raider Nation. 702-365-9200 if you want to get through. And again, our schedule is changing a little bit this week. We are off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on Raider Nation Radio, but I will have the coach interview tomorrow. We'll have Raiders Rundown up tonight on the Raiders YouTube channel. We'll have the TV show coming up this week. So everything's status quo. This is the busiest week of the year for me. Right after the show, I go to Win from 4 to 7 to do the Mad Dog show. And then I'm hosting Sirius XM on Thursday and Friday from 9 a.m. to noon. So this is a 7-day week for me, other than Christmas, going back to last week and some of the things I'm doing. 6 out of 7 days, and I love it. I wouldn't want any other opportunity in my life than to talk football, college and pro, on the radio. 702-365-9200, Raider O in San Diego. Good to hear from you. Merry Christmas. Go ahead.
Hey, Merry Christmas, JT. I wanted to have a chance to talk before the holidays. Thank you so much for standing up for the nation and constantly reminding everybody that it is about just win, baby. It's going to feel so great to have a winning spirit going into this holiday. And I hope we get some more wins. I hope we do have a chance to knock San Diego out of the playoffs. And either way, let's finish strong. I think it's important for everyone to remember, no matter what pick you have, you don't know how those players are going to turn out. We have to worry about the draft, but just remember, we don't even know who the best quarterback of this last year's draft is going to be long term. Just take that winning spirit. Let's let these young guys keep fighting and show something, and we're going to have to end strong to go into next season on a roll.
Yep, thanks for the call. Look, man, I would have loved, if the Raiders ended up getting the first or second pick in the draft because they didn't win a game, it would have been really interesting offseason programming for us. And I would have been able to live with it, but I wasn't rooting for a loss. So I'm in a tough position here, okay, because I want to win more than lose. But I understand the fans. I understand the fans want the top pick. You're not getting it unless you trade up and get it. That's normally what happens with every team. The worst team in football gets the number 1 pick. The Raiders are not the worst team in football. They're the most injured team in football. They're the most hurt team in football. They're not the worst. You're not the worst when you have Max Crosby, Robert Spillane, Jacoby Myers. You're not the worst team in football. There's teams worse off than the Raiders, and the Raiders were in all these games. The Giants have rolled over and quit. The Raiders have not quit at all. Mike from La Casa Cigars, where we did our holiday show on Friday, and I went to his tailgate on game day. Mike, your cheeseburgers rank very high here in the history of tailgates. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. You enjoyed the win. Good to see you in there. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, look, I'm a fan first, and you can't build a winning culture if you don't start winning. So why wait till next year to win when you can win now?
Yeah, I mean, Mike, if they would have lost the game, Mac Jones comes the length of the field, they lose. Raiders still have the number 1 pick. I would have been content on their effort and the fact that they had the lead and they played hard and Brock got all his targets and all that, but they ended up winning the game. One team, Mike, was going to walk out of there with the win, right?
Right, I can't complain about that. I was happy to see Bowers get 11 catches and finally decided to throw him the ball on every other play, so that was great.
Yeah.
I mean, their effort in every game, even in the 10 games they've lost, has always been there. It's just that, we got to start winning some games. We just can't. We're not quitters. The Raiders have never been quitters. The Giants, they can lay down and die and, get that first pick. Who cares? But the problem is, no one's going to know what's going to happen draft day. So, we just got to finish out the season and, get these kids some win and let them feel good about themselves.
That's great, Mike. Thank you for your partnership. You and Sandy mean everything to me. You're a great friend of mine, and thank you. And I'm proud to represent you on the radio.
Oh, thank you. You have a good holiday.
You too. Mike over at La Casa Cigars. Great place to see live music. I'll be over there throughout the holiday. He gave me a couple nice sticks at the end of our remote the other day. We had a nice crowd out there. I want to thank everybody who showed up for us on Friday. Levi Edwards will join us in studio. You can watch him on my live stream, man. He looks like a football player.
20.
Guy's a monster. I don't know, he like bench presses the building or something. This guy's a big guy, and he's got great access to the team. We're streaming. You can see Levi at JT the Brick YT. We are brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town, 5 to 7, midnight to 2.
I got one call, Thor, and then we'll take Levi.
Okay. Is clearly not off the locker room. They're still playing.
Wow.
What's going to happen moving forward?
It's a tough conversation.
It's like if someone comes in here and is like, what do you think about 2025 for your job status? Like, well, what do you think? What do you know that I don't know, right? I mean, it's like, how do you answer that, right? Because everyone expects that they're going to be good to go, even in trying times like the Raiders are going through right now.
Don't miss Unnecessary Roughness, weekdays at 2 on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m.
Today's a long day. I'll see you today over at when?
Not tonight.
Well, not tonight.
We're only doing one show. I think we're here tonight. Okay. We're going to be closed pretty much the holidays.
Sundays are for football inside the Suncoast. Step into the future of sports betting. Experience mega wall-to-wall screens, massive stadium seating, state-of-the-art audio, and exclusive VIP seating for the epic game day experience. Get food delivered right to your seat for the ultimate fan VIP treatment. Each week, join us for exclusive core swag giveaways, staycations, dining certificates, and more. Your Sunday home is inside the sportsbook at the Suncoast.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way. Because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. So if you've been hurt in a crash, call Sam & Ash, 702-303-0333. Sam & Ash, because you deserve what's right.
Businesses across the country are committed to getting things back to how they were. Shift 4 is committed to helping them get there. We're the leader in innovation.
How we doing, everybody? We're really that focused on one game and one loss, man. We're really that focused. And that's why I want to grow this channel and have more football fans, not just Raider fans, man. I want to talk football, man. Who watched the football games? Washington beating Philly. Dallas punching Tampa Bay in the face. Kansas City, how they won again. I can't believe it. Jaden Hicks, my guy. My buddy's, my son's friend who had that interception, his third one. Denver and the Chargers. Football. What do you think of college football? Did you watch more college football or more NFL over the weekend? You had a choice to watch college football or the NFL. What'd you end up watching? Hello, Levi. How are you, man? Sure you watched college football over the weekend?
Yeah, it wasn't really that good.
No, it wasn't. We'll get into that a little bit.
Adventurous RAV4 or the powerful Toyota. At Finley Toyota, we make
Wasn't it
financing
good?
easy and stress-free, no matter your credit situation. Finley Toyota, driven to excellence. At the Valley Auto Mall in Henderson or online at finleytoyota.com.
They don't give bye weeks.
Do you know the most important factor in your company's success?
State,
It's your
so you
people.
get bye week
They're
over
the
Ohio
heart of your
State. I mean,
business. So how do you
Well, that's
harness
the
this
thing.
potential?
I can't even
Insperity can help. From recruiting and onboarding to employee development and retention, we'll help you build a stronger, more resilient organization. See the difference the right approach to human resources can make, because how you HR matters. Find out more
that's where I
at
think you have to tweak it. I think if you win
insperity.com/HR matters.
the Mountain West or an inferior conference, should you get a bye over the team that lost the SEC championship?
to the U.S. and studying
You know,
law.
I don't know.
If you're a group of five school, I think the group of five school, no matter what, should always be relegated to the 12th seed, in my personal opinion.
We bring the very best legal team to fight for you. It's our heritage. It's the Castroverde
They
way.
would really help Boise State out if their one loss that they had the whole season was against
Brotherswin.com.
They probably should be.
This holiday season,
That's what
Capital
it is.
One
Oregon
reminds you to
being
give
an
yourself
underdog.
the gift of 1.5%
Oregon's
cash
2.5
back with
point
the
underdog
Capital One Quick
coming off the
Silver.
bye week.
Can I hear
Yeah, well,
5%
yeah, they
cash back
already
on
played them,
birds?
barely beat them just because
What
of
if
the whole
you
scenario
sent
of,
your
like,
true love to turtle doves plus a partridge in a pear tree?
uh,
Sure. But why would
not having
anyone want
awareness,
that?
like,
The song was very
scrambling,
convincing.
with no
Earn
concept of
1.5% cash back
Uh,
on all your holiday
Who's
purchases
your
with me.
favorite player in the
Capital
locker
One
room
Quick
after the
Silver.
game? I'm going to start with
What's
that.
in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Okay, who you got?
Welcome back to the JT the Brick
Say
Show.
it.
Brought to you by Comisario Tequila, the official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
Now gets the snap. Throws out to the right. Open Bowers down the sideline. 15-10. And he's pushed out of bounds. A sharp outcut by Brock. And then cut upfield to the 7-yard line. That's another big pickup of 17. And it's first and goal Raiders.
I love that. Jason Horowitz on the call, and he had a really good game calling Brock Bowers the victory, all the big plays, everything we saw on defense. Isaiah Palomal, the 2 turnovers, no turnovers for the Raiders, but they caused 2. Levi Edwards joins us from the digital team. I want to begin, and thank you for everything. Merry Christmas to you and your family. I hope you have a great holiday.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you, JT. Happy holidays.
You got it, man. You mean a lot to us here. I want to start off with the locker room. I'm going to work backwards. You went into that locker room, home and on the road, with 10 consecutive losses. What was the vibe like once you got in there? We heard the owner was there. A lot of people were there. Give me a player or two that you could really tell it affected him in such a great way.
For one, I would definitely say Caleb Von Chason. He was definitely very positive, very happy to have made an impact in the game. And whether, no matter what the record is, when you face a team that drafted you, felt like you were not good enough to remain on that team and no longer need your services, and you get to play them again, make an impact in the game and win, it means a lot. So he was in good spirits, a guy that's really stepped up over the last couple of weeks, done some really big things, almost had an interception.
Yeah.
And he even joked about that in the locker room. Darnay Holmes, he actually took the boom mic. He took the boom mic after the game, and he was playing around with Chason during his post-game scrum and joking around because Chason apparently blamed him for maybe knocking an interception out of his hand. So I thought that was really fun. And a lot of the veteran guys, too, those guys like Amir Abdullah and John Jenkins, those guys that knows what it takes to win in this league, and they haven't really experienced it this season, but they were really happy just to see the younger guys really experience it and really now know what it takes to really grind out a win in that process, because they haven't had too many opportunities to really have that experience and that feeling. So it's going to carry over a lot.
I talked to Vinny Bonsignore about 2 players, Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers Johnson. They won a lot of games in college. They don't want to be around losing. 10-game losing streak is not what JPJ and Bowers signed up for here. And they played at big programs, Georgia and Oregon. So to get that stink off of them and win a game and get back to that feeling that they have when they drive home from stadiums after games, I think is very important. A lot of fans are losing their minds about a draft pick. I understand that number one pick has probably sailed and probably gone. Not that the Raiders can't trade up and get him, but Rich Gannon also said it's very important for the young players on this team to have some wins at the end of the year to build the offseason program.
For sure. And these snaps, they matter. These wins, they matter just in terms of building a winning culture and really just letting these guys know what it takes, the preparation you have to go through from Monday when you step in the building, when you go through rest and recovery and do what you have to do to get right, through the practices that you have throughout the week, whether you have to travel or stay home, prepare, get ready to go through what it takes to win. They need that experience, and it's really invaluable in the league. Everybody thinks, okay, well, you just, put whatever team together and you go out there and you win. It's really hard to win the NFL.
Yeah.
And when I was in the locker room, I could just feel a sense of gratitude amongst the locker room of just, we found a way to go through our process and figure out a way to pull out a win, because it is really hard. And I think that that's something that a lot of those guys might have taken for granted 10 weeks ago after they beat the Browns.
You got that right. Levi Edwards is our guest. Let's move to Isaiah Palomal. I know he's a good player, but he hasn't been able to crack the lineup, and he cracked the lineup due to injury to Marcus Epps. Now he's put out a lot on tape. I just wonder, I don't look at the tape as closely as you do, but Tom Telesco does, and he's going to have to make a decision. Do I got to go out and get another safety in the draft for depth? Do I have to go get one in free agency, or are you comfortable with him back there going forward with Trayvon Merrick?
To be honest with you, you could honestly do both. I don't see why you couldn't do both. I don't see why you couldn't re-sign Palomal, and I'm not going to get too much of the contract stuff. I'm not the GM. I'm just kind of evaluated it from my point of view. But I will say from my point of view, Palomal has done what it takes to earn another opportunity to play for this team. And he's a guy who's homegrown. And I know Tom Telesco has told me on several occasions, he takes pride in having guys in the locker room who are homegrown talent that they're able to develop in their own processes of doing things. And a guy who was a 2022 undrafted guy out of USC, didn't have his best senior season coming out, and that's what made him, stump out of, being drafted. And great size, great athleticism, a guy that really comes and plays a lot of effort, really grounded in terms of his mentality, just very level-headed guy who comes in and puts in the work. And granted, you'd hate to see Marcus Epps go down, and I wish him the best on the rehab and the process he's going through. And I see him in the building a couple of days, but Isaiah's really stepped up, and he's done what he's been able to do. And I'm not surprised by it, just by seeing him work the way that he has the last 2 years.
Levi Edwards is our guest. Check out his work at Raiders.com from the digital team. So if the playoffs started today, 3 out of the 4 AFC West teams would be in. Kansas City is the 1 seed. The Chargers is the 6. Denver is the 7. And the Chargers have a 2-game lead over Indiana. So I think Denver is going to get in along with the Chargers here. The Chargers have the tiebreaker over Denver based on head-to-head win percentage. Look, you got a Hall of Fame coach in Andy Reid, possibly with Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton here. So I understand why the Raiders want to win games and this coaching staff, because we're competing against those guys in the division. Just going around the league, do you think that Buffalo has a chance to beat Kansas City even if they don't play that game in Buffalo and they have to go in Arrowhead? I think they're the better team even though they trail Kansas City by 2 games.
I believe they do. I believe anybody has a chance any week. And this is a Buffalo team that has proved over the last few years, not even just this year, that they can beat Kansas City. The only issue is over the last few seasons, they've proved that they haven't been able to beat Kansas City when it matters the most.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, and it doesn't matter whatever sport, whatever position you're in, once you are a winner, winners know how to win. And when you look at what the Chiefs and even what the Chargers are doing in our division, they're not winning by the sexiest.
No, they're not.
Fashions. They're not. But they have a culture, and they found ways to win. And once you know how to win, by hook and crook, you're going to find a way to get it done, because that's just how sports is. Once you find that recipe, once you know what it takes, you're going to do what it takes from then on out. And the Bills are still trying to figure out a way to, they win games in the regular season and they, have playoff success, but that's a hump that they have to really, truly get over. And so will they get the winning recipe? I don't know.
Levi Edwards, as we wrap it up, you love college football. I think it's flawed. I'm all right. I wanted 6 teams in the playoff, not 12. I thought the 1 and 2 seeds should get a bye. 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. They wanted to go to 12. They might go to 16. But the way they seeded it all, so Arizona State got a bye. Oregon deserved a bye. Boise State got a bye. And Georgia, I think, was the best team to deserve a bye. I'll start with Notre Dame, Georgia. That's a heavyweight fight. And the reason why Notre Dame has a pretty good chance in this game, Georgia is only a 1.5-point favorite. Georgia's playing with a quarterback who hasn't played in a position like this. Big advantage to Notre Dame, but I think Georgia has the better roster. How do you see it?
This is actually a really funny question because after the SEC championship game, I talked to Brock in the locker room. And Brock, obviously, you've talked to him. You've been around him. He's a very even kill, all about ball, no nonsense kind of guy. And I think the most excitement or the most expression I've ever seen out of Brock in my life is when I asked him about the SEC championship game. And he talked to me about Gunnar Stockton and how, he's a kid that's been there in the program for a while and he's got to go through this journey. And he's really excited for him to have his opportunity to go about proving his worth. A guy that's had to, stay on the bench and kind of ride his way out and has really stayed committed to the program. And so the way that he spoke to me and with the excitement that he talked about when describing Gunnar, I truly believe that he thinks that they have just as good of a shot to win the national championship, even with Carson Beck being out. And so when you watch what he did on tape against Texas, which I believe is a pretty good Texas team, he went out there, he managed the game, he was very mobile, he did his thing, grant the win interception. So when you just look at the team and that roster, I believe, even Oregon, I think Oregon still has a great team, but I think they still have the best shot.
All right, a little bit of rapid fire here. Does Ryan Day have to win and beat Oregon to keep his job after he's already won a playoff game in Columbus? Got a playoff game. They won at home. It's an 8 seed going to playing Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Is that still a must-win game for the coach to keep his job?
I'm going to be honest with you, no.
Okay.
I think
I
think it's a really good Oregon team. It's number 1 in the nation for a reason. They won the conference in their first year being in it. Obviously, you would hope they win because they already played before, and it was such a close game when they did play. And considering will this be a neutral site game? I'm not sure if that will play a factor or not, or if it will be in Oregon. But if it's a neutral site,
it's neutral site. It's definitely neutral site. It's the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. So obviously Oregon will have a little bit more of a home advantage there, but I don't think it's a must-win game for Ryan Day. But I do think it's something that is on their radar. If anything, his must-win game is going to be Michigan next year.
Yeah, I would agree on that. And lastly, Boise State. This is the perfect game for Penn State to beat a team that's supposedly ranked higher. We know that Boise State is not a better team than Penn State. They might be able to beat them, but Penn State's got a better roster, I think better players, and they're the 6th, and Boise State's the 3 seed. James Franklin can't beat anybody who's ranked higher than him. Well, in this format, Boise State is technically ranked higher than them. I think Penn State wins. They're a 10.5-point favorite. How do you say it?
I think I would give Boise State a little bit more respect.
Okay.
And I would even say it as this, where Penn State, I believe they have, is it 1 loss or 2 losses?
I believe they have 2 losses.
But one of their losses, of course, was to Oregon. Boise State's 1 loss was also to Oregon this season.
12-2.
I would argue and say, especially earlier in the season when the game happened, Boise played Oregon better than Penn State played Oregon. Just kind of as a measure of a strength test. And Boise has only got better since that game they lost to Oregon. And even though they're playing, not as superior competition, you look at the way they play and how their offensive line goes, and Madsen's playing really good at quarterback, and Genty's the best running back in the nation. I would say, yes, Penn State probably has a better team, but I would not count out Boise.
What are you going to be writing about at Raiders.com here through the new year? What are a couple of big projects you're working on?
Well, of course, we're going to continue to work on the team, for this season, obviously. We have the Saints coming up, so we have a game preview coming out. And we're going to have our weekly coverage versus Pick 6, everything of that nature on how are we going to play the Saints? And it's going to be a tricky game considering we don't really necessarily know what the quarterback situation is going to look like at the Superdome. So that's going to be great. Also, some good content probably coming out as we try to make a campaign push for Brock Bowers to win Rookie of the Year, a guy that hit 100 catches, 1,000 yards yesterday, which I believe that no rookie tight end has ever done. So can't wait.
The food in New Orleans is spectacular.
Amazing.
Okay, so you're going to get out of the team hotel and try some new cuisine there. I'm sure you got to go to the spot.
Is mandatory.
All right.
That is mandatory. Beignets and everything.
So you're going to go for it.
Oh, yeah. Full send.
All right. Then come back for the holidays, get your workout in.
Yeah.
And get ready
for the workouts in. Oh, yeah.
Merry Christmas, buddy.
Merry Christmas.
That's Levi Edwards. We appreciate him coming on. Let me get to Thor in Summerlin before I wrap up the show today. Thor, thanks for holding. What's happening, buddy?
JT, what's happening, my brother? Hey, it's been a long time coming. We needed a win, man. We needed a win, brother. I'll say thanks to Mike. I guess I got there right after you left. He gave me a cigar. It was a great time out there. J-Lot. We played Celebration for Ricky Henderson, A's. But that stage is last today when we played it before the game and the Raiders won. So Ricky was a Raider fan. So
yes.
Hey, it was a great day for me winning. I want my team to win. Winning is a learned behavior. The majority of the people will be on the team next year. They need to learn how to win. We got to start somewhere. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It's not about what number you draft. It's about the player you draft. Obviously, we draft Brock Bowers at 13. Are we going to end up drafting 13? I hope so. I hope we win the next two games. I don't care where we draft. As long as we draft the best player available, someone who knows how to win, someone who wants to win, someone that wants to help the team win. JT, man, I'm happy. I'm very happy. Christmas Day. I don't have to think about us losing for 3 months straight. I can remember a win.
You got it, Thor. Thank you. I think you summed it up beautifully. Heading into Christmas, we would all admit, even the Raider fans who are bitter about the victory would say, if you're going to win one game, I didn't think they'd lose 10 in a row. When they were 2-2, I don't know any Raider fan who thought they'd lose 10 in a row, not one. If you're going to win a game, win one heading into Christmas. I think it makes everybody feel a little bit more optimistic. That's the way I see it. When we come back, my tribute to Ricky Henderson. I got a lot to say on that. And Ricky Henderson was a Raider fan, and I met him a number of times. I didn't know him on a first-name basis. Ricky wasn't like that, but Ricky was in the West Side Club a bunch when I was hosting broadcasts there. Ricky Henderson, one of the top 10 to 12 baseball players to ever live from Oakland Tech. I'll pay tribute to him next on the flagship of the Silver and Black.
It's the morning tailgate.
Raider Rondez, thank you for holding.
Thanks, everyone. That was a good, long show, an hour and 50 minutes, man. That was one of our longer ones. Thank you. Merry Christmas. I will do a stream tomorrow. We got a Tuesday show, and that might be one of the last ones we do. I'm sure we'll do one maybe later in the week. I'm not, positive. My head's spinning. I got to go Christmas shopping. Got to get ready to cook my famous chicken parm on Christmas Eve. But thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas to you and your family if I don't get a chance to talk to you. But I will stream tomorrow with Bobby from the studio. Have a great day.
ESPN Radio Las Vegas and 1230 The